Hello, good afternoon. My name is David Hutchinson. I'm the Assistant Director for Capital and Asset Management with the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget for the City of Pittsburgh, and also the Chair of the city's Capital Program Facilitation Committee. We meet 4 times a year throughout the year to provide updates to the public, to the administration, to council, and to the departments on the status of that year's capital program. Today, we're going to go over some of our numbers from the 2021 program, especially around spending. We're also going to pass the mic to our department leads to be able to talk through some of their successes from the 2021 capital program. And then we're going to wrap up with some notes on what we can look forward to for 2022. One of the things we really need to be cognizant of each year is our CDBG timeliness calculation. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development gives us community development block grant funds every year. They want to make sure that we're spending them in a timely fashion. So they hold us to a 1.5 threshold of our available funds each year. That's usually 2 months before the start of our program year. So as of January 31st, 2022, our goal is to have less than 1.5 times our 2021 allocation sitting in the bank. That makes sense. HUD wants us to be circulating the funds, improving people's lives with them. So it's important that we spend these funds in a timely fashion. This year, we can go through the math on this page, thanks to Michael Knight from the OMB team for putting this together. Our current balance as of today is that top number. It's almost $28 million. We also need to include program income. Some of the programs the URA run, they generate income that the city needs to consider part of its basic account balance with HUD as well. So with that included, we're almost at $29 million. Our 2021 allocation was just over $14 million, which means that by January 31st, 2022, HUD is expecting us to have a balance of $21.4 million or less. As you can see, we're about $7.6 million over that right now. That number also does not include the CV funds, the money that we got through the CARES Act that's excluded from this calculation. We were actually on the phone with our local HUD rep this morning. They understand the pressure that's been put on a lot of small city governments throughout this past 2 years. With the coronavirus. So we're not going to be subject to the same type of structure in terms of remediation that we normally would be, but we still need to take action on these funds. So OMB analysts, especially Brendan and Eric Schultz, who recently joined our team, are going to be reaching out to department leadership and fiscal admins to talk through the available funds and to see what we can either move to another project that's more urgent, backfill in a future year, or find an available use immediately for some of those funds. In terms of spending, I like to look at how much we spent within that year for that program year. So the first column is what we were able to accomplish for, in 2014, we spent $13 million of the 2014 budgeted funds in that calendar year. Additionally, we spent $35 million in older funds. So the $35 million could include 2013, 2012, 2006. The idea is that we want to be lining up our available funds with projects that are ready to go, that are shovel ready, where they can spend the money. So that first column is really crucial to see kind of how much of a head start are we giving ourselves in spending the available capital on these projects. For 2021, we had a pretty solid year in terms of overall spending. We were at $83 million, which, as you can see, is our highest total in all the last 8 years, except for 2018, where we bought Boulevard of the Allies 412. So it's been a good year in overall spend. In terms of comparison to previous years, we have been able to spend quite a bit of the 2020 program year within the calendar year. So it's been a good year for getting some of the funds moving. I especially appreciate the challenges that have been unique to these past 18 months, especially around shortages, delays in delivery for commodities, and price hikes. So I really applaud the departments for getting a lot done, spending a lot of money in a really difficult time. Something we also want to be considerate of is an IRS regulation that wants to make sure that we've expended at least 85% of our bond proceeds within the first 3 years from the date the bonds were issued. So what this table is looking at is all of our different bond offerings over the years. They may look a little bit lumpy, especially in the front end, That's because I can only really pull the information that was loaded into our accounting system as of 2012. So some of those funds were spent before they were even transferred over as a balance. So I would worry less about those, but the numbers in yellow are what we need to be conscious of. Those are older funds that we really need to spend down. For each year, I tried to do a quick calculation in the second column for what our threshold would be. We want to be below that number in the second column. So in many cases, we're doing fine against the 85% rule. But overall, it's just a good idea to be spending those funds so that we don't get in trouble with the IRS, and also it puts us in better standing with the bond rating agencies. When they go to give us a rating, they understand that we have a robust program and we can get some things done in a short amount of time and make the bonds worthwhile. So these are important metrics. I'm glad that we're moving in the right direction and spending more of our money quickly, but we just need to keep up the pace. I also want to take a look at, I think, a success we've had across the entire capital program, which is contracting time. There's a big shift that we did this past year with electronic document signing through DocuSign. I did a look at two different things. In OMB, we have some Excel sheets that are basically a marker of when the contract originally hit the analyst desk all the way to when it was executed by the controller and sent back to us. As you can see, over time, we've had some struggles with the old paper system. For the 2021 numbers, there's two sets of data. We have the DocuSign counts, which are much lower. There's, I think, a mean of about 12 days and a median of 9 days in DocuSign for any contract with the city, which I think is great news. But of course, there's work that people like Brendan and Eric do before it even gets into DocuSign, working through the terms of the agreement, the dates, making sure that the budget is in place, that the accounting information is correct. All of that's still happening, but it's not very well captured in the DocuSign system. So I went back to our Excel sheet for 2021 to be able to compare apples to apples. And you can see that the median is actually one of our lowest that we've had. It's sitting right around 20 days for the total process, inclusive of DocuSign, but I would like to get that even lower. I think that's something that's a huge pain point, both for the procurement team, for the departments, for the citizens, that we're not able to do the bureaucratic parts fast enough to keep pace with what needs to happen in the real world. So I'm really happy that we're moving in the right direction trend-wise for that median score. But I want to see if we can keep utilizing DocuSign to speed things up. So at this time, I want to pass to the departments. Sorry, stop share. To talk about some of the successes that they've had throughout the year. We've, again, had a really challenging year. There have been some issues both in the field, in our offices, in the real world. So I appreciate the ways in which the departments have really shown up and been able to pull through on a really big set of expectations. We had some successes with DPW especially. Deep apologies from the director of DPW. They had a full presentation created. I've seen it, it's really nice. And we're pulled away at the last minute for some weather related emergencies. So they were unable to make it to present, but they did send in some highlights. Andrea Ketzel, I know our landscape architect, has done some amazing things at Granville, including ADA accessibility upgrades, things to improve the site circulation, new play equipment, and also separating out the play spaces for ages 2 to 5 and ages 5 to 12. New safety surface and landscape improvements there. Phillips Park is a great park that we hear a lot about from the public. It's one that's really well used. So Andrea was also able to incorporate some new ADA improvements at that site, relocating some equipment and also installing new equipment and new safety surface. So I think we're understanding more about how parks are used, not just by kids, but also as passive recreation for people who want to go for walks. And Andrea's done some great work around including site circulation for these kind of projects to make it a more widely used asset. And then McBride Deck Hockey as well. They were able to install a new deck hockey court, including player benches, a scoreboard, and some new landscape improvements as well. Kaz, do you want to talk about some of your successes this year?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Kaz Pellegrini. I'm Senior Project Architect with the Facilities Bureau. And yeah, we're very proud of two projects in particular. One is the Hammond Rec Center. The other is the Sheridan Senior Center. which we also call the Healthy Active Living Centers. But the Sheridan Senior Center that we recently completed addresses ADA access to the building. There were renovations that were done in the past, some on site, some in the building, but the two never really married up. This project was done using CDBG funds. It was meant to connect the outside with the inside ADA wise. So we eliminated a bocce court in the back and created a porch area and a ADA transition from the parking lot to the building. It's covered with a beautiful lattice work, and the seniors can't wait to get into it when the weather breaks. The other project was the Ammon Rec Center. That is a 1940s-ish building in the hill, and we have not neglected the building. We have cut and closed the envelope in past years, meaning the roof. We've taken care of the HVAC system, but this project, with the help of the Penguins and other donations, helped us, start to address the inside of the building. And it is the first, one of the first, which is going to be a large program, is the Rec to Tech. We want to use our rec centers as more than rec centers for athletics. We want kids to have the opportunity to come after school or on the weekends, whatever, come into our buildings and learn the latest technology. In them, they'll be given laptops, they'll have 3D printers, and they'll learn about gaming and many other things. In the Ammon Rec Center, we essentially made a, we have a classroom for instruction. It's its own separate room, and we have a cyber lounge. We also have an office in there for various community groups to occupy. So those are our two highlights.
Yeah, I think the last year and a half has really demonstrated the value of those shared spaces. And I want to also congratulate Parks and Recreation on something that's not a capital program, but some of the hunger services they've provided in those spaces to our residents has been invaluable during this time. So congratulations on those accomplishments as well. Speaking of shared spaces, would Domi like to provide any updates on transportation in our right-of-way?
So my name is Kim Lucas. I'm the acting director for the city's Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. If you tuned into our budget hearing, you would have seen a lot of this information. So I'll try to go kind of quickly here, but I did want to share on some of our successes. So in 2021, we resurfaced 57 miles of street. So that was pretty significant for us. And we were able to complete repairs on 17 concrete, brick, and blockstone streets throughout the city. We painted over 300 miles of center lines and 3,600 crosswalks, and we identified ways to improve the efficiency of our operations and make it more affordable for us to respond by increasing the capacity of our in-house crews and completing some of the work for high visibility crosswalks that are completed in thermoplastic. We were able to do that in-house and increase our capacity there. In terms of customer service, we also were able to reduce our 311 response time substantially to under 2 weeks for most requests in regards to our sign and paint related 311s. Here are some examples of some of the work that we were able to complete this year: some critical sidewalk gaps, bridges and supporting structures, and brick street repair. In terms of maintenance and operations, which a lot of our work does come out of the capital budget because they are substantial investments, we were able to complete substantial maintenance on 5 bridges, and we were able to advance design for 6 additional bridges. We mitigated landslides at 11 locations, but we still have outstanding needs when it comes to landslides. We installed 250 bike racks this year. So small pieces of infrastructure, but ones that really make a difference when it comes to secure and accessible modes of transportation. And that was more than I think our department has done in any prior year. We authorized over $13.8 million worth of work orders, so nearly 200 work orders, and approved invoice payment for nearly $50 million worth of work. And to date, as a department, within the last 5 years, we've undertaken nearly $250 million worth of work. Here are some additional examples of some of those beautiful infrastructure projects. As you can see, we work in many mediums: concrete, bricks, stone, DuraBlock, and more. From our planning side, which again, these do come out of our capital budget as well, because we want to have great plans so that we know what projects need to be invested in first in a construction standpoint. We published our city's long-range vision plan for mobility, a 50-year 2070 mobility vision plan, as well as our strip district mobility plan, which we just closed up public comment, and the final version will be ready imminently. Additional planning activities included the Homewood Active Mobility Improvement Plan, the Oakland Plan, where DOMI is leading the mobility element, and the Greater Hill District Master Plan, where, just like with Oakland, DOMI is leading the mobility element of a larger community planning effort. In terms of safety, traffic calming received over 250 applications in 2021. So we heard from 250 community members and communities saying, hey, we want our streets to be safer. We were able to collect data at nearly 200 of those sites that received that request, and we were able to complete 13 projects. One of those projects includes one of the city's first raised crosswalks, which we hope will be the first of many throughout our city. That required not only ingenuity in our construction, but also support from OMB and procurement, because we needed to try a new contracting mechanism in order to be able to do that. We completed major signal upgrades at 6 intersections. So one of those things that, when you're going down the street, you might not realize that the signal timing and the sophisticatedness of that infrastructure has a big impact on how our streets are flowing and the safety of our roadways. And so we have a robust program to continue making improvements signal by signal citywide. And our Safe Routes to School program began design for improvements at 4 schools and hosted our first walk to school day, awarding our first Golden Sneaker Award for the local school that had the most students walking on walk to school day. Here's an image of our raised crosswalks and speed humps that we have been receiving more and more requests for, and hope to be able to continue to grow that program. Here are some examples of the Safe Routes to School work that we've done this year, as well as the implementation of the Manchester Chateau Neighborhood Plan that called for improvements in pedestrian and bicycling through that community. And you can see here we were able to improve crosswalks, and in other parts of the community, we installed bike lanes and improved shortened crossing distances using paint and, in some cases, bollards to improve safety. In terms of complete streets, that Manchester plan was part of the 10 miles of all ages and abilities additions to our bike network that we were able to complete this year. We have 2 additional projects that we hope to construct as soon as construction season hits us this year: Squirrel Hill and the Melwood Connector. And we're continuing on design for a number of these safety-oriented projects citywide. The trolley trail that has been long awaited kicked off in earnest this year, and we've had public meetings to talk about the designs. The Allegheny River Green Boulevard Trail had some substantial advancements this year, and we are very excited about the future of the Davis Avenue Bike Ped Bridge, of which I have a rendering in the presentation. You can see on the bottom left here, a bridge, a full-blown bridge that we hope to construct in the very near future, and additional images of some of those safety projects that were bike-oriented. As you can see here, the Hatfield Connector, we call it, was a great collaboration between the Department of Public Works and DOMI to improve pedestrian and bicycle connectivity in this community.
Got to interrupt. You didn't get a picture of the tiniest stop sign ever at the Hatfield Connector?
Oh, I'm sorry. Huge oversight.
I like it. I run on that route quite a bit, and it always makes me chuckle looking at the stop signs at the end, because I don't know, are they 12 inches? They're small. 8 inches? It's
pedestrian scale.
Yes, they're very nice. I like them a lot.
Well, I'm glad you're getting to benefit from that long-awaited piece of infrastructure. And then in terms of major projects this year, the I-579 CAP project was complete. And we recently learned that we won an award for that project. And that was a major project that was, headed up by external entities, but required substantial city investment in time and resources to make happen. The new West Ohio Street Bridge is complete. And so that is one that was closed for years. And we were able to get it over the finish line this year and have a really great unveiling ceremony recently. We started construction for the Allegheny Circle two-way conversion, and we're almost done with construction for the Allegheny Circle two-way conversion. And we're just waiting for the finishing touches before we can complete that two-way conversion from one-way to two-way. The Vista Street steps were completed, and the Rialto Street steps are just about done, and we have completed the Lowry Street Bridge. Here's an image of the I-579 CAP project. You can see a portion of space that wasn't being as highly utilized as it could. And so now we have a wonderful park and connectivity that was not there before. And here are some pictures of the West Ohio Street Bridge, which had been shut down for years to automobile traffic and is now reopened to all modes of transportation. The image on the left of the Vista Street steps, I'd like to call out that yellow portion on the steps, which is a runnel. So that's something so that if somebody has a bicycle and they want to get up the steps, that makes it easier because they can put their bike wheel in that frame and make it up. And that was a design adjustment that we made after hearing from the community and them telling us, we really, really need this. And so we made it happen. And on the right, you can see our Rialto Street steps. And then finally, this is not directly related to the capital program, but everything we do is in service of the city. And so this year, in addition to those projects, we also issued nearly 20,000 permits and performed 50,000 inspections. So some of it's on the work that we manage and own, and a lot of that is on work that's being completed by external parties. And we improve code so that more projects can be done and that the public and our business community can have more successes. And this is just an example of how we were creative in reimagining our public space to enable some of those economic opportunities that we hope will influence the future budget. And finally, with our bus shelters and streetlight project, this was the first year that we were able, I believe, to bring in our revenue off of the new bus shelter advertising contract. And using that contract, we installed 15 new shelters and made substantial renovations to 28 existing shelters. And we're going to continue to expand that program and install and improve transit stop improvements citywide. And in terms of city lights, city street lights, we, as you can see, received over 1,400 maintenance requests via 311 and have been able to address those and make improvements there. And here are some examples of a creative lighting project that we completed on the 18th Street steps and the Walnut Street lighting improvements as well. And with that, I will stop sharing and pass it along to the next person. If I can find the button, there we go. Stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you very much. You all accomplished quite a bit this year. I do think one of the really fun things about working at OMB is getting to see what everybody does and kind of how the pieces fit together. So when I'm sitting in on a neighborhood economic development grant presentation from Manchester Citizens Corp, and they're referencing the mobility plan, I can give some background to the council member staff that are making the scoring decisions to explain to them what the impact is of being able to support that CDC through the implementation process and how important that is. So it's been a really nice process to get to learn all the different departments and all the different kind of corners of the city and what's been going on.
And Dave, real quick, I almost forgot to mention that, yeah, the work of DOMI is kind of interesting. You might see a dollar figure in the 2021 or 2022 budget associated with a project, but that usually signals the kickoff of a project, not necessarily the completion of that project. Because of the substantial scale and complexity of the work of our department, most of our projects are multi-year endeavors and multi-department endeavors. And so we're often the public-facing department and project manager, but really it does take collaboration with other departments like OMB and law to be successful there. So thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Well done. So I wanted to close out with just some notes for the 2022 capital program, especially with fund availability. I know that's really important for everybody's project progress. So I want to give you updates on that. For PAYGO, we're going to be shooting again for sometime in February to get that transfer to happen from the tax revenues, make those funds available. Bond, we're looking now at probably mid-April. So I actually need to give a note to our consultant by the end of this week if April 15th is okay. So let me know if that doesn't work for you, if you need funds, the 2022 bond funds before that date. This is the stuff that would not be on the official intent letter you may have already worked on with Brendan. So Brendan has that spreadsheet of the projects that need funds pretty early on in 2022. We're aware of those ones. OMB is going to do some work to just ground truth some of the numbers in there. So we know OMB came back to us and said, we'll probably need $700,000 to get paving kicked off. So we're going to go back and look at prior year spending to make sure that by this point, April 15th, 2020 or 2021, you hadn't already burned through much more of that. We can still make changes, but we just need to advise our fiscal advisor on that subject. Additionally, CDBG we expect again will be in the fall, as it usually is. That number has been creeping more forward in the calendar, which has been nice. It's been, I think it's September, maybe August in the past round. So that's been good to get those funds much more sooner than prior years where it was November and October. And then for the American Rescue Plan and the parks tax, those are likely to be in Q1 as well. We're working on those actively as it stands. In terms of follow-up from this meeting, you're probably going to hear from Eric Schultz and Brendan Katikia on your prior year funds, specifically the bond funds and the CDBG funds. We've had these conversations in years past. There's always those projects that just kind of linger a little bit, or they came in under budget and we can actually close it out and move those funds towards something else. So those are the kind of conversations we'll be having specifically around those two fund sources. Are there any questions or comments from anybody on the call regarding the 2021 capital program or questions for 2022? Okay. With that, I'd like to say congratulations again on all your hard work. We understand the changes that are happening, not just with coronavirus, but also with the change in the administration and how that can shake things up and present challenges. So we appreciate everybody being so mission driven and getting so much done for the 2021 program. Thank you much.